Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Barbarian, and this is what I expect to be the last episode in this chapter. And let me just check something I need to check. Nope, okay, I just needed to check that my hard drive wouldn't be full. We already assigned all of these tasks, and we're gonna go through with this. Last episode, we blew up the bell tower, unceremoniously, but we did achieve this. And yeah, I'm a bit torn. I can see there's replayability here because you can do other missions, but at the same time, I feel like I'm missing out. It's, bit of a missing out syndrome here, man. That's a lot of money. Alright, quite a few are working with us on this. Very good. By which we mean 8 people, apparently. This will work without a doubt, as it always does. Alright, what's next here? What's going on? Is it loading? In front of the Berlin Zoologischer Garten train station, flags from all over the world flutter in the mild wind. I wait for my guest, holding a sign that says Thomas Fox. My guest is late. Should I just leave? Wait a little longer. Just as I'm about to give up, a man comes towards me accompanied by 2 boys wearing the white uniforms of the Olympic Honor Service. I recognize him as the journalist from the Hindenburg. He shakes my hand and smiles. Hello, I'm Thomas Fox. We met on the Hindenburg, remember? Of course, he says. He turns to the boys. Thank you very much. He gives each of them 1 mark. They thank him in decent English and leave. How was the journey? It was great, thank you. German trains have become much better. Still not as good as our American ones, but you're getting there. After a stop at Tom's hotel to drop off his luggage, we head straight to the Olympic Stadium. It's an impressive sight. The Olympic Stadium is covered in banners. Thousands of people are queuing up at the many entrances that lead inside. Loudspeakers set up under every tree playing music and blare announcements. 2 towers, one with a swastika, the other with a clock, hold the Olympic rings between them. Wow, says Tom. Yes. Falk gave us VIP tickets that allow us to cut the line to get inside. Inside we realize without surprise that we have premium seats. We sit down and the spectacle begins. Hitler and his men walk over the field. A little girl dressed in white hands and flowers then salutes him with an outstretched pale arm. The crowd cheers enthusiastically. What do you think about all this? Your presidents behave like this? Well, the ways to say hello are not as strict in the US as they are here, but in general, I think every politician in the entire world loves to be seen with little children. Makes them appear human. Being celebrated like a religious leader. This is not normal. How can you ignore this? You're probably right, says Tom, but sometimes he behaves just like any other politician. Hitler takes the girl's hand and leads her from the field before ascending to the podium. Pompous music starts to play, grabbing people's attention. Hitler will use this opportunity to let the world hear him speak. He's so, cliché, not in a bad way. You need to have this, I suppose, to bring over the atmosphere, the feeling of the time, but he's so cliché of an observer, an international observer of Germany. It's this, yes, I do see who you say you are, the way you work it, and the way you do these things, but I believe that, maybe there is some normality about what you do. To my surprise, Hitler gives the shortest speech I've ever heard from him. He declares the Olympic Games to be open. End of speech. The Olympic fire is lit. Doves fly. Pompous music plays, and even the Hindenburg flies in and hovers over the audience. This is impressive, I have to admit. Whatever you think about their ideology, this is extraordinary. They know how to impress people. Is this why the Germans fall for this guy? Because you like being fascinated, and that's why he does so well? Like Wagner? Asks Tom. I don't think we are easier to impress than you Americans. Oh, good point, Tom nods. However, presidential inaugurations and world's fairs seem like shoddy carnivals in comparison to this. I think this little man with his ridiculous mustache has now impressed the world too. By now the national teams are marching by, greeting Hitler and the audience. Some raise their right arms. This was a huge scandal back in the day, and they acted as though it was the Olympic greeting, which of course did exist, but wasn't what most people did when they raised their arms. Now with that being said, I gotta admit, I'm confused. We blew up the bell tower last week. Where's the influence of that? So it seems, look, now even the French team is saluting Hitler. I believe that is what they call the Olympic salute, says Tom. It looks disturbingly similar, there you go, yeah. There were some teams that did not do the Olympic salute. But whatever you call it, the world is saluting Hitler right now. And can you blame them? This here is so impressive that I'm beginning to understand why everyone applauds. No one cares about the truth if the show is good, huh? To tell you the truth, there are quite a few people in the United States who believe Hitler is right and who wish for our own version of him. We have anti-Semites too, and even most of those who consider themselves Democrats, or at least liberal-leaning, are much more afraid of communism and the Soviets than they are of Hitler at this point. You think that can change? Thing is, there are all these rumors, sure, but I have never seen a concentration camp, and neither have my readers. I never saw a Jew being mistreated, and neither have my readers. Bring me proof, and I might be able to convince them. What kind of proof do you need? Pictures, or even better, film. Bring me something, and I will make sure it gets published at home. I hope that the meeting with him is that something. I will bring you something. Stay for another 2 hours and watch the athletes passing by, paying tribute to the German Chancellor before the event starts to wind down. So what's next on the agenda? Asked Thomas. Thomas, what has Falk planned for me? I will bring you to one of the better places in Berlin. You're making me curious, Guido. Let's go before everyone else starts to leave the stadium as well. We take a taxi to a place at Kudamm in Charlottenburg that Falk had recommended. Wow, says Tom when we arrive. This looks just like the old Berlin, the one I knew from 1929. But I had heard that there was no nightlife anymore. It must be staged for visitors. The Nazis closed most places like this 2 years ago. Seems like they've reopened them. It looks exactly like one of the places I used to go to, says Tom when we enter. The dance club really does look just like they did before Hitler. Women in extravagant dresses and bold haircuts, elegant men in tuxedos, everyone dancing and chatting. We take a seat at the bar so we can see the dance floor, where they seem to be playing... Wait, they're playing jazz? I know this song, says Tom. They're playing it at every bar in New York right now. I can't believe it. For 3 years the Nazis have banned all kinds of jazz music from being played in public. They called it un-German and degenerate. But here we are. A big place on Kudamm is playing American jazz. This is only for show. Given this, says Tom, making a gesture towards everything around us, I'm afraid most American visitors will come home and tell their neighbors that Germany is doing just fine, that it is a country just like any other, and that all those stories about daily cruelties and mass oppression are exaggerated. We need to tell these visitors the truth. I understand, but I'm afraid the staging is just too good. No one will believe you. There's only one thing that would make Americans turn against the Nazi regime. What is it? What would make the US turn against Hitler? War. The only thing the average American is more afraid of than communism is another war. The last one almost destroyed our economy for good. Most people are still convinced that the Great War caused the Great Depression. Kind of did, by the way. Just, the arrangement of debts afterwards kind of did. If you manage to find proof that not only is Hitler planning a war, but that it will be a war that affects the US, then you might get them on your side. Proving that, though, will be difficult. It won't be easy, but I will find your proof, I say. Good. Let me know once you have it. We call it a night and I go back to my place and think about what I have seen today. Back at my place I think, must not fall for their show, that's all it is. It's all staged to deceive people. On interview. No matter what charade the Nazis played today, their intentions are dark and their plans are evil. It's all staged. We must not fall for their farce. I don't know if we can... I literally don't know if we can do the interview, because I don't know what it requires. Olympic Games open in Berlin. The Führer and Reich Chancellor of the... How can they do this when the Belter... I don't... There's some things here that I will admit I don't fully understand. Like, the game appears to ignore what we've done. Italy supports General Franco. Italy sends planes and ammunition to the insurgent Franco putschists in Spain. England and France send warships to Spain. England and France send warships to Spain to protect their own population from the uprisings. It's something I don't understand about these Nazis and racists, says Arthur Friedrich. How can they be so selective about whom they hate? What do you mean? There was a line of people waiting to get autographs from one of the American athletes, and he was black. At least a couple of the people in line had the swastika armband on. Don't they see the hypocrisy? Their whole worldview is irrational. I don't expect Nazi hatred to be rational, I say. Yeah, I mean, again, I think for many people it wasn't an ideology where they understood, so to speak, the science behind it. For many people it was a feeling and zeal. I think really that is what it is. And if the Führer says it's okay to interact with those people, then it must be. Okay, what do we have here? We have not the interview, is it? Is it? Might be blind. I thought I saw something pop up, but none of these are the right ones. Sell books. I think it has to be this one, right? And it's so damn risky. You know what? We got so much money. Oh. Johanna and I, we're gonna do this. We're gonna invest as much money as we can. We're gonna use a bicycle as well. We're gonna bike away, I guess, from the interview. Something like that anyway. Oh, definitely. Let's do this. We have an opportunity to deliver information to a foreign journalist. Yes. Oh, we need 3. I gotta tell you, that's risky. I can't use you, and I can't use you. Oh, this is very risky. This has to be the right one, right? I'm looking around. I don't see any other potential here. This one and that one. No, those are others. You. Hiding. Quite clearly. What is this? Get out of here with that. Alright, let's do it. Peter Book wants to secretly give a note with information. Wait, a note with information? A dispute. I don't know, enforce. Dispute is settled. Scans the note. Just a note? So this isn't even it. Is it just like a story thing? I think it might just be a story thing, where like at the end of this chapter we get an interview or something. Arthur Friedrich has retreated to a safe place, okay. Maybe I'm blind though. Jesse Owens wins 4-time gold. The US-American Jesse Owens, the outstanding athlete at the Berlin Summer Olympics, has won a total of 4 gold medals. You know, the success of Jesse Owens has frustrated Hitler a lot, and there's this infamous quote of Jesse Owens where he says, well, you know, Adolf Hitler never called me the N-word. And this is oftentimes used by fascists straight up to say, hey, you know, look, Hitler wasn't that bad. It's such a nonsense quote. Obviously, it wasn't intended and it wasn't well liked that Jesse Owens as a black man won this many gold medals in front of the German athletes. It was, from the German perspective, from the dictatorship perspective, it was a shame. It was a disgrace. It's just, you know, if you've ever heard that quote, I mean, obviously, you know, the mistreatment of Afro-Americans was something that went on way past World War II, but it's ridiculous to act as though that, you know, puts Hitler in a better light. German volunteers for Spain. It's a clear whataboutism, you know, like, one bad thing doesn't make Hitler better just because he doesn't really care about that thing, you know. Jesse Owens went home to the United States. What Hitler cared about was Germany and those that actually lived in it. The first German voluntary squads arrive in Cadiz, Spain, to support the fascists in their struggle against the Republican government. The squads are made up of soldiers of the Luftwaffe in civilian clothes. KPD, anti-fascists help Spain. The Central Committee of the KPD in Paris calls on all anti-fascists to help the Spanish people and the Spanish Popular Front together. I have to tell you all, the regime's cover-up is working, says Gustl Kleiner during our meeting. Something happened. So, a tourist from England approaches me and asks me if I'm from Berlin, and I tell her I am. And she says, I heard awful things about Germany, but now I'm here and everything is so beautiful and everyone is so nice. Perhaps this Hitler fellow isn't so bad? What do you say? I looked over my shoulder first to see if anyone else was listening. I told her about the prisoners, the brown shirts, the beatings and murders, laws against Jews. I had to force myself to stay calm, just talking about it. But there was at least one more person who knows the truth. Exactly. I think I will do this more often, educating one person at a time so they can spread the truth in their home country. I just don't think it's gonna be enough. Okay, and you know what? I just wanna actually take a long look at all of these. None of these are an interview. God, if I miss seeing the interview, I don't think the interview's here anywhere. Yeah, I don't think the interview is anywhere on this map. This is all the critical intel, you know? No, I don't think it's here. High intel? No. Yeah, we definitely can only do one of them. I wonder if that is how it's always going to be. Whether in any timeline you have to do only one. If you have this game, if you've played it yourself, tell me if you can do more than one activity. I would definitely be very interested in knowing about it. Because right now, we just kind of have to get through the week, I suppose. Let's just get some more recruits, I guess. Oh. And we could also just have a party. I guess let's have a party. You know what, maybe we should go dancing. Let's go dancing. We've never done this. I want to go there before the war starts, which will happen once we pass on to the next chapter. Alright, let's do that one then. Cool. Lost 8 supporters, that's okay. This chapter is over either way. We travel to the east of Berlin and visit a nightclub that's still playing what the Nazis call Negro music, despite the ban of all un-German music. We dance all night like there's no tomorrow and have a wonderful time. When we finally leave, the day is already dawning. This felt good. We need this back. There you go. Alright, and this ends this chapter. I'm a bit... I'm still weirded out by that Liberty Bell. We come over a small hill and I see a group of wagons next to a handful of barracks where children play in the dirt nearby. Must be the camp. Don't you want to take a picture? Asks Berta. Oh, this is for the... Okay, I get it. This is for the interview. Take a picture. I take out my camera and take a picture of the camp. The smell of human waste hits me so hard I can barely breathe. I look at my companion. This is the camp? Yes, this is it. Surrounded by sewage farms as you can smell. They forced them to stay between a waste dump and a cemetery. In between excrement and corpses. Not sure if by evil intent, but for Romani there is no place worse. The Romani and the Sinti and Roma, both of them, I believe at least both of them, actually. I don't want to categorize that. When I visited Krakow, when I visited Auschwitz, both camps, so the main camp and the actual death camp, I had the honor to listen to the direct report of a survivor, of a Romani survivor. He refused, and this is, I think very much understandable, but he rejected the idea of speaking German. He could speak German. I mean, it was something that was very necessary to survive, in the camps itself. When, for example, they would call your number in Auschwitz in particular, and you didn't know what the number was in German, then, that would mean disobedience, would mean punishment, and potentially death. But obviously he said, I don't want to speak German. It's not something that I want to do. And the story that they tell, they're always extraordinary. But the Romani, and this is what I know, I don't know much about the Romani in general, I have to admit, but they view, it's a very traditional view, I suppose. They view blood in general and excrements, of course, as very, very unpure, which, objectively, of course, they are, but more on a spiritual level than at any other level. That, of course, also comes with the fact that women in Romani culture, when they have their period, are not allowed to, do certain things. But that is the general understanding in Romani culture. And the Romani themselves, and I want to point this out, I said this before, and I hope that the member of the community didn't take this as an attack. I didn't think that he took it as an attack, but I don't think it makes sense to take part in an Olympics of suffering, so to speak. And I say this before we jump into what we are about to see. But it's oftentimes said that the Romani are somewhat forgotten when it comes to the Holocaust, when it comes to the terrible, terrible things that Germany did during World War II. And I think that is a fair point, but I don't think that this should mean that we push, the suffering of others, of the Jewish people, of homosexuals, of political dissidents, of transgenders, which, by the way, were an attack group back in the day, and of the Romani. I don't think that we need to put anyone out of the spotlight. I think it is important to shine a light on every single tragedy here. But it always struck me as very, very odd. When I went to Auschwitz, it was in a student group, it struck me as odd that, such an important, such a vital part of history, because the Nazis didn't really make a difference. For them, any of those groups were the Untermensch. Any of those groups were to be exterminated. I don't think we should make a difference either. I think all of these groups need to be remembered, commemorated, never forgotten. Because this, what actually happened throughout the war and what we are going to see here, shall never be repeated. At least, shall never be repeated wherever we have the power to stop it from repeating itself. Who forces them to stay here? The police. I knew a couple of families who stayed close to Strausberger Platz. A couple of weeks ago, they were suddenly gone. I asked around and learned that the police had brought them here. What did they do? According to the new Nuremberg laws, Romani people are social misfits and vagabonds. The authorities wanted them out of the city before the Olympic Games. This is a historical thing. This is a thing that happened, you know, very, very early on. Fairly light-hearted, I brought up how the Federal Republic of Germany, when the Shah of Iran visited, how they would go on and, you know, plaster the streets entirely new. They would put entirely new rocks in there. The idea of cleansing the city, and I don't necessarily mean this in a violent act, although of course it was included, but the idea, I think, is something that many regimes, democratic even, would keep going. It's just that the Nazis here did it on an even grander scale, on a much grander scale. But we shall never forget, I think this is an important part, we should never forget, to me it's an important part, I suppose. I don't think we should ever forget that when we see something like this, what it could be. And I don't want to make a slippery slope argument here. I don't think that is what it is. But I think we should recognize, I think we should be able to recognize methods of authoritarians. I do think this to be quite important. Whether it is I suppose something else, but I believe that if we fail, see, this is the thing. And I think this brings actually a tangent back from like way back, and I don't think I've ever actually finished that in the video. But the way I see it is that I find it a bit undignified when we see references directly in this game to modern days. But, and this is very important for me, while I don't think that references directly are a good thing, you have to look at the modern day. From what we see in the game, from what we see in history books, from what we learn from the people that still live, and there are not many that still live. I want to point that out. It is important to use what we see here, to recognize it in modern day, to apply it. I don't want to be known, and that is, you know, just definitely something very important to myself. I don't want to be known as the person that says, don't compare this, don't bring modern day politics in this. No, bring modern day politics into this, but do it after you understood what the history is. Alright, sorry, I just wanted to bring the tangent over. I don't think I ever properly elaborated on my point of view on that, and I really just thought it kind of bugged me. Especially now that we are looking at something so radical. I think it is important to compare it to the modern day. I just think that when we look at it directly, I think we should directly look at history and not mix it up. After we looked at history, we should look at the present. Now, with that being said, what I do want to also say, just before we move on here, my apologies for making this fairly lengthy, but what I do want to say is that the Nuremberg laws, and many, many laws that came, made whatever was going on legal. Now, again, in the German modern-day republic, for example, that would not work. It is simply not allowed to allow for the discrimination of a certain group of people to... You can't even revoke citizenship of a German citizen. But in Nazi Germany, they did that all the time. This is why there was this infamous quote in the modern day where someone, and I'm not going to go into the details who said it, but they said, Nazi Germany at least didn't kill its own people with the gas. Technically correct, I suppose, because they revoked their citizenship. But they were their people. No doubt about that. Alright, sorry. Let's actually just take a look at the situation. Do you think they let them return after the games? I don't think so. As I said, they applied the Nuremberg laws. We will see this happening to more and more people, not just gypsies. If you ask me, they would do the same to the Jews right now if they weren't too scared of so scared of the foreign press writing about it. But with the gypsies? What do you mean? Most people don't care about the gypsies. They're seen as inferior people almost everywhere. Rush now, we're here. The policeman at the entrance has been watching us for a while. He stops us. Aha. Sister Bertha, he says. Blessings to you, says Bertha. He looks at me. Blessings to you. We'll bring the milk as usual, she points at our handcart and the milk jug's on it. Alright, go in. Go in. I'm not taking a picture while he's here, are you? A group of children comes running towards us, greeting Sister Bertha. They are all chattering happily amongst each other. She greets every single child by name and asks them to follow us. I ask the children if I can take their picture before doing so. A woman who is washing her son wraps him in a sheet when he sees us. Hello, Sister Bertha, she prods the boy, who is shivering in his towel. Good afternoon, Sister Bertha, says the boy and bows politely. Hello, Maria, says Berta to the woman. My dear Oscar, so good to see you. How are you today? When the boy doesn't react right away, the woman prods him again and he hastily says, I'm fine. Thank you, Sister Berta. How are you, Sister Berta? I'm very good. Thank you, Oscar. And this is, Sister Berta points at me. I'm Guido. I introduce myself. Guido is a good man and might be able to help you, says Berta. Hello, Guido, says the woman. So you want to help us? Is that true? If I can, I will. Man, I gotta tell you. It makes my skin crawl. It's obviously like, I mean, it's a game, right? But it's not just a game. It makes my skin crawl. I got a frog in my throat right now. It's just. When you've seen the mountain booths and of glasses in Auschwitz, all of those belonged to people. All of those peoples had people had dreams. All of them wanted to achieve something. All of them wanted to be someone. Holy crap, man. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just. It's an indescribable horror, and we're not even there yet in the game. But it all begins with we're not there yet, you know? Of course you can have milk, help yourself. Please, all of you, get yourself some milk. That's why we brought it. When we're done filling all kinds of vessels with the fresh milk from our cart, I look at Maria and say, Sister Berta says something is troubling you. Maria gives me a suspicious look. He's a strange doctor. Well, he says he's a doctor. I don't know if he really is one. He comes here regularly with this even stranger woman. What does this strange doctor do? The doctor and his helpers, they look at us, check us, bodies, teeth like animals. Take pictures. And they take the children. They take children with them? Tell them, Oscar. They bring us to the Institute, says Oscar. The Institute? Yes, it's far from here. You have to go by car. I went there twice. It's really nice and the food is good there, says Oscar. What do they do there? They give us food, and we can play games, and then they ask us questions. It's really nice. I want to go again, but Mummy says I'm not allowed, says Oscar. I don't trust them. I don't know what they're doing with the children, but I don't like it. They measure them, they take pictures of them as if they are exotic animals. I think they're up to something. It's nothing good. Suddenly, the children run towards the camp's entrance. Here they come, says Maria, and points at the gate where a man and a woman accompanied by 2 policemen enter the camp. Should get out of sight, says Maria. We quickly hide behind a caravan and look at the group, which is now surrounded by the children from the camp. The man holds Oscar's head and looks at it closely, while the woman stands next to him and takes notes on the clipboard. Although we're a bit too far away, I still give it a try and take out the camera to take a picture of the scene. A group of adults from the camp has also formed. Some shout at the doctor and his assistant. Leave our children alone. Go away. The policemen raise their nightsticks to threaten them. Take a picture of the scene. The atmosphere at the gate is getting heated. The adult residents come closer and closer. When Maria pulls Oscar away from the doctor, one of the policemen hits her arm with his nightstick. Maria cries in pain and jumps back. More people come from the inside of the camp and start yelling at the group. Another picture of the conflict is taken. I hear the sound of a police whistle and more policemen come running, nightsticks drawn. As they beat them, the civilians retreat into the camp. The camera clicks. The doctor and his assistant push Oscar into a car parked in front of the gate as he wails. Maria and the other residents try to break through, but the police block their attempts. The engine starts and the car drives away. I want to leave the cover of safety to hinder the policeman, but I get pulled back by Sister Berta. Stay down. It'll only make things worse, she says. Get out of here. Police haven't reacted to the fact that we're here. Better if it stays this way, says Sister Berta. She's right. I mean, she's right. Best way to help is letting the world know what's happening here. If the police take your camera, you'll have no proof. We leave the camp at the opposite end to avoid the guards. When we are safely on our way back to Marzahn, I ask Berta, what do you think they'll do to the boys? I have no idea, but I do not like it one bit. Hitler has been talking about solving the problem of Jews, the Romani, and everyone who isn't a healthy Aryan in Germany for years. But no one ever seems to ask what solving the problem really means. You think they are going to kill these people? I don't know. I really don't. She looks back at the camp where we see campfire smoke rising in the setting sun. But I know what we just saw is only the beginning. It's just... In September 1936, National Socialist Germany was largely accepted and well respected at home and abroad. At the same time, the Nazis began to exclude Jews, Sinti and Roma, the disabled and so-called a-socialists from society. It was the beginning of what ended in the killings of millions. Your leadership is strong and stable, and your group has recruited and retained enough supporters that it can withstand the brutal crackdown. End of chapter 2.
No one outside the camp knew of the events of that day. No one wanted to know. The new Germany was being celebrated in Berlin, as if it were a country like any other. Hitler lied, and the world wanted to believe him. In 1938, Britain and France gave in to Germany's aggressive demands to annex the Sudetenland. Soon thereafter, Austria followed. When the Wehrmacht invaded Poland, Britain and France finally decided to declare war on Germany. An unleashed Wehrmacht spread murder and annihilation across Europe. The Nazis kept their promises, and we were devastated.
Stop Hitler's war. You know, I do want to point out that, of course, Austria fell before the Sudetenland. But Czechoslovakia, I suppose, was finished off after Austria was annexed, so I don't think the minor detail being not entirely correct there matters. Hitler made his threats come true and brought war to Europe. Sudetenland, Austria and Poland are under German control before Great Britain and France finally declared war on Germany. Shortly after, Germany occupied France and we were stunned to see fascism spread throughout Europe. Oh, shortly after Germany occupied France and we were stunned to see fascism spread throughout Europe. We got some, I think these are markers here. Get some meat, so essentially, you know, you get a I don't actually see, we don't know how many grams of meat you get here, but those are rationing, of course. This is, oh, we might be getting drafted. And this, I'm not entirely... Und... Innerhalb der... BVG, oh BVG, okay, so these are the Grundkarte. Why is it called Grundkarte? Let me actually just take a look here. So the BVG is the public... Oh yeah, okay, I see. I have the historical ones in front of me. I don't know why they called it Monatsgrundkarte, but essentially it's a ticket for any public transport in Berlin. Croatia joins 3-Power Pact. Venice, Croatian Prime Minister Ante Pavelic signs Croatia's accession to a military alliance between Italy, Japan and the German Reich. Finland leaves League of Nations. Finland's government says the League of Nations no longer benefits the country and declares its withdrawal. The League of Nations did, of course, as so often, fail when it comes to safeguarding Finland. Now Finland then being in the winter war against the Soviet Union. German embassies in the US to be closed. The US government calls on Germany to close all embassies in the United States. We're all actually here. We all made it here. Alright. We moved though, we moved over here, I see. What would be the missions here? Safe passage. Mark, one of our contacts who works at the Jewish orphanage, is worried that the regime will soon begin to deport the children of the orphanage. We asked to bring a group of Jewish children to a meeting point at the coast and have them picked up by a ship. Army uniform and trucks. Okay. Voice of freedom. I'll be honest with you. I look at this. What is this? Frozen lightning. Sources say the Wehrmacht is developing a miracle weapon to decide the war in favor of the Germans. We should spy on the facility. I think we want to go with this. I think we want to do... I want to help as many people as we can. We cannot stop Hitler's war. That's just the way it is. Let's help as many people as we can. Man, I gotta stop recording for today. Because, I gotta be honest with you. I'm not a person at all that is built close to the water. Or that, you know, is gets emotional about anything really at all. But just the memory, you know, I think more people, as many people as possible, should go to Auschwitz, or be it even Dachau, Buchenwald, any memorial of a concentration camp. What you see teaches you much, much better than anything that I could tell you here. And Auschwitz in particular, I was also in a couple of other memorials, but Auschwitz in particular, it has a profound impact. We also, there's a monastery close by, just to, I guess, close off this recording for today. There's a monastery close by, Auschwitz, which is the city Auschwitz, but in Polish. And the monastery in the basement, and let me actually see. Give me just a moment. This will, you know, if you're not interested, then you can end it here. There will be no more gameplay for this episode. Let me just quickly find something here. There's a monastery, and in that monastery, a survivor essentially started to paint. He started to paint what he experienced and how it was for him. And in the basement, you can see a gallery of those images, and I can actually pull them in here. There's some really, it just teaches you the actual impression of it. Of course, knowing the historical facts of things, knowing all of those things, learning from them, it is incredibly important. But I do think, and the profound impact that this art, that memorial site in general had on me, it's really, I think this is, it's 70 years ago. 75, am I wrong here? 75, I think, yeah. 75 indeed, yeah. I'm an idiot, obviously, it's 75. But we should never forget this. You know, there was this historical event in German history that stuck with Germany until World War I. It was the 30 Years' War. Since 1648, every German ruler always kept in mind what happens to those that stay neutral, to those that become the battleground of a war, and they always tried to avoid it. They always tried to take the initiative, to do preemptive things, which eventually, of course, led to World War I. But it was a trauma that lasted for centuries, literal centuries. And I can only hope that the trauma of the Holocaust, that it holds at least for centuries. We need to remember. We need to take a look at these things, and we need to learn from them. Alright. And with that, I gotta go. I hope that the members of the channel don't take it too personally if I don't mention them by name today. Thank you all for your support, and I will see you guys later. Have a good one.